This is E&P Reports, a service of Editor and Publisher Magazine. Since 1884, the authoritative voice of news publishing. Hi again, Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. And in a time of downsizing and consolidation and cost cutting, we've got good news for you here. We got a story of a newspaper group, an Adams publishing group in Idaho, that in the last 2 years has increased its circulation by over 40%. That's right. By filling a void, going back to basics, and doing things just right, we've got growth in Idaho. And to tell us more about it is Matt Davison, publisher of Idaho Press. So join me as I go one-on-one and chat with Matt Davison. Well, Matt, welcome to E&P Reports. It's our pleasure to have you on for the first time. Where do we find you today, home or at the office, sir?
I'm at the office here in Nampa, Idaho.
Okay, so are you pretty much open, or is the staff working out of the Idaho Press there?
Yeah, for the most part. We've got several of our reporters mainly are working from home, and some other individual employees, but our office is open to anyone who wants to return. Unfortunately, one of our counties here in the area, Boise, has returned to stage 3. So we're letting staff work from home if they can, and trying to do our best to keep moving forward here.
All right, great. We should, before we discuss the good news, your growth, I thought I'd just get a perspective on what's going on in Idaho or Boise. Do you call your market Boise? I mean, what do you call your area?
Yeah, we do. We call it Boise, and that's somewhat new for us. I mean, as you mentioned, we've been expanding here recently, and I'm sure that's what we'll talk to. But for 135 years, our footprint has really been the second county, and our metropolitan area is a little bit unique, where we have 2 counties that kind of blend right within one metropolitan area that's really kind of grown together as the Boise market especially has expanded. You know, it's one of the fastest growing areas in the country right now, so it's just tough to keep up.
Why is that? Why is Boise, Idaho so?
I think it's quality of life and cost of living. You know, Boise is a young town. You'll see a lot of road construction here, a lot of home construction. Houses have been affordable, and the weather's great, and I think it's just a wonderful spot on earth. So we're pretty happy here.
Where the desert meets the mountains,
That's
right?
right.
When I was out there, I remember that. Tell me about what your perspective is on the pandemic. How is the market dealing with it? How are you guys faring through it?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's been tough. You know, we all thought this was going to be a quick, let's do a few months and we can survive, but it's definitely had an impact. And I will tell you that I'm extremely pleased and proud of my team, as I'm sure most publishers are. Our news reporters have doing an exceptional job covering this and making the most of the situation. We've launched our grant program, which I know you've had some people talk on this podcast about, including Mike Beatty from Adams, which has produced some good results for us. But that's temporary. What we're trying to do is make sure that we are positioned as a company to help businesses recover from this, help our community recover from this, and try and make sure that we come out of this as a better organization for our company, as well as a better and more, supported player in the community at large.
Yep. Well, you are an Adams property.
Yeah.
It's actually more than one title out there. Your main title is Idaho Press, correct? But why don't you run down the properties you have and where they serve?
Sure. So here I run the West Idaho division, which is the Idaho Press, along with the Meridian Press, which is a free distribution targeted weekly that we launched in 2013 to serve a news desert in really the second most populated city in Idaho, Meridian, Idaho. We also have the Emmett Messenger Index, which is about 45 minutes to the north, a little rural town that's really positioned for some growth as people start to move out of a little bit further out into the suburbs, so they can get that country living and still work in the city. And then we purchased the CUNA Melba News, which is about 30 minutes to our south, in 2016, I believe. So we've got a pretty good footprint of weeklies, and most recently we added an alt weekly, Boise Weekly, which had a nice presence in the market for many, many, many years. And so that's become under our umbrella here in the last year and a half, and it's been fun to add an alt weekly to our mix of products. But our focus is really on that community journalism. We still have reporters that sit in city council meetings and go to high school football games and baseball games, and that's really our focus. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more, but journalism has really been probably the single biggest success we've had by just producing great content.
How big is the staff out there?
Let's see, in the newsroom, I think I've got 10 or 11 right now.
Wow.
Overall, as a company, we're in the 80 range. We've got three total buildings, and staff kind of move throughout. I mean, this market is really growing together, Mike. It's becoming one metropolitan area, and that's kind of changing how people move and live and work in this community. And I think COVID is going to shake that up, of course, everywhere. But certainly, we'll have our share of that here as well.
So you're the now, don't take offense to this, but you're the Adams little dog against the McClatchy big dog in that market. I mean, when people think Boise, they think the Statesman, right? That's the big statewide property.
It's a good product.
It's a good product. McClatchy is in some flux. Let's put all our cards on the table, but they made a significant move in the last year or so, which changed, in your opinion. You saw kind of an opportunity from their move. What was the move that they made?
Sure,
and how they produced the product?
So in early, or I'd say about 2008, we signed a joint printing agreement with them, and it was a great partnership. And unfortunately, when we were purchased by Adams, they just decided that they wanted to go a different direction, which is no problem for us, but it did create an opportunity. And so when they moved their printing to Twin Falls, which is about 2 hours to our east, we knew that there'd be some readers that might be disappointed without late breaking sports or news in their morning paper just because of that added deadline pressure. And for us, one of the key factors, most people who see this will probably think of Boise and immediately go to the blue turf at Boise State. That's what we're known for. If you ask them where you could find Idaho on a map, they probably can't, but they'll know blue turf. And that's been they play a lot of late games, and that was it's a big readership stat for us, and it's an important category. We're going to miss it if it doesn't come back, but hopefully it will. So that just created a new opportunity for us to expand, to try and provide a print product with timely news in the morning the next day. And I really want to stress that I have all the respect in the world for those folks that work at the Idaho Statesman. They put out a great product every day. Their digital journalism is really exceptional. And we're proud of their efforts as well. And I understand their business decision, and I hope they understand ours as well. But we're excited to be in the position we're in right now.
So basically, since you have you print in town, you're local,
right,
you decided to really start pushing that aspect, that if I may use the term, unique selling proposition to the potential news consumer in the market, that we're printing local, we're giving you much more up-to-date information. And I got to say, I'm going to show some of these. Those of you that are listening only in podcast mode, I'm sorry, but the YouTube viewers are going to see that you've got some pretty cool ways of bragging about what you're up to.
Yeah, we're trying to focus on print, Mike, and I think there's a runway for that. I'm a publisher that's always believed that print has stability. I think we'll continue to see certain pub days drop across the country. I personally believe that weekend product, that print product, is still going to hold value for advertisers and readers for many, many years to come. Not naive enough to think that's the only, that's not the only tool we need, but it's certainly one that we can count on. And I hope I'm right, but only time will tell, right?
So you basically let the consumer and the community know that without, as you said, without disparaging the Statesman, that our product will be much more timely, much more up to date. We are local, we're producing local. And how did the market embrace that? I mean, how did the news consumer embrace that over the last 2 years?
As you mentioned, we're second place, right? So you mentioned that. And
right.
So we were coming from an area of somewhat understand. Our brand was somewhat aware in that market, but it was somewhat new to a lot of folks. And I think the feedback we got was really, really positive. I mean, they really enjoyed our journalism. I should add that one of the big moves we made was adding what is perceived to be the best reporter in the state of Idaho. She was a government reporter working for a newspaper out of Washington, actually, in northern Washington. And we got her to come on board with us. Her name's Betsy Russell. She brought a significant amount of audience with her because of her exceptional news coverage and just her professionalism as a reporter. In addition, we brought in a couple other key players. Gene Huff is another reporter that's done a great job with our life section. DJ Rains is our Blue Turf sports reporter for Boise State. He's been the sports writer of the year for, I think, 2 years now. And that really has made a difference. And I think people notice that. They notice when the exceptional journalism is published and they respond to it, and when they pick up their paper. And our philosophy here is, and this is really just a directive for me, is we are local on our front page every day. And the only time we will run a large national story is if it's really significant. And we've done that a few times, but for the most part, and we get complaints from readers who say, hey, why did you bury that national story back on page 5 and not put it on the front. For there's that perception that if it's on the front, it's more important than any other news. But we get criticized for that, and I just simply respond to readers and say, look, our focus is on local. You have dozens of sources that will get national news, and really only a few that provide this local, and that's the runway we want to play in. That's the road we want to drive on. So that's where we expect to be for the foreseeable future.
And full disclosure, prior to my taking over E&P, but in 2019, you were one of the 10 that does it right.
We were, yes.
E&P recognized you for your amazing commitment to local journalism. So let me. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but first of all, give us the metrics. Where are you today compared to where you were before, and how does that place you audience-wise against the Statesman now in the market?
So we've grown our overall audited circulation by over 40%. That's almost 7,000 new subscribers. So we went from roughly 15 to 22 today. I haven't checked the Statesman recently. I think we're probably pretty close, but we don't use that as a measuring stick, and it's not. Our job is to provide a product to our audience, and I will tell you that an area of challenge has really been on the advertising side, but on the circulation side, we have seen unbelievable support from our new readers, and they are sticking with us. We have lower churn than we've had before, which is great, and so all things considered, I think we're on the right path.
You got a 40% growth in print readership, correct?
Correct.
How about
and online? And Mike, I should add one of the great things, a stat here that I didn't expect to see. We track pressure starts, of course, and voluntary starts. And one of the things that was really exciting for me to see was readers coming to our website, subscribing on their own, and really sticking with us. And over 30% of those voluntary starts came in as digital only, which was really impressive. I was excited to see that. So, we're not quite, setting any records nationally with our digital only subscribers, but our new customers have come on board with 30% digital only. And I should mention, just one more quick thing there is we charge the same price for print and digital. So I know there's been a lot of discussion. In fact, I listen to your podcast regularly. You've talked about it regularly as well. But we have really tried to make sure that we're positioning ourselves and encouraging subscribers to understand that you're paying for access to the content, right? How you get that content, whether it be your iPad, the print product, as far as I'm concerned, is just another way to read the news. And so if we can convince the market that they're paying to access the journalism, the way in which they access that becomes moot. And that's, I think, something that the whole industry is trying to move to. And I know some companies are doing it more aggressive than others, but it's been working for us.
All right, you touched briefly on advertisers. We just discussed how the news consuming community has embraced you. How about the advertising community? What are they?
That's a tougher nut to crack for sure. We're up against all of the major competitors in that market, from Tegna, which is the dominant TV station, to Sinclair for radio, and you name it, Scripps. They're in the market, and so we compete really against all of the major national players there. That's been harder for us, and I'll tell you, it hasn't. It's an area of improvement for sure. That's one of our focuses in 2020. Obviously, before things kind of hit the brakes here, but we certainly need to do better. But I'm pretty encouraged by the fact that our print customers continue to come back regularly. We haven't seen in fact, even during COVID, we're really close to hitting our local targets for just ROP ad sales, which is pretty encouraging. Obviously, preprints and some other areas are down significantly, but we continue to see that local support. And so much of this comes down to the players, right? And the people you can get on your team. And we're continuing to look for that talent, and I think there's opportunity to do a little better and upgrade. But for the most part, we've got a really, really solid team. I've got, I think, one of the best newsrooms and one of the best ad teams, and our management is just really solid across the board.
Wow. Talk to me about the services you provide. You're an Adams newspaper, but you can't say Adams and paint with a wide brush right now.
Correct.
A lot of the different markets, some of them are recently inherited. Some of them are trying to, place the services of other. What does your suite of services look like in Idaho? What do you?
We're a full service marketing company. We have a digital agency. We partner through a company, Affinity X, that does a lot of our fulfillment. But we're doing programmatic and social and web development, and I mean, you name it. We're big into the events game, which has taken a bit of a hit here recently. But we're trying to diversify revenue like every other media company out there right now.
Okay, excellent. And where is the closest Adams paper to you?
Yeah. So Adams has a really strong footprint in Idaho. So my colleague Travis in East Idaho has the let's see, two dailies in Idaho, the Idaho State Journal. So we've got a really strong footprint in Eastern Idaho. In fact, Adams in the state of Idaho is probably the largest media company that nobody really knows about, which is fine. That's good for us. And I think as a company, I'm really proud to work for Adams, and I think it's an up and comer. I believe in Mark Adams' vision for what he's doing. I'm sure, Mike, you follow the news as much as I do. And Mark has a vision that he's executing, and I think it's proving to be successful. We've had our challenges of a kind of a growing pains for a new company, but the leadership team with Nick and Eric and all of the key players at the top, I think, I use the phrase, I've drank the Kool-Aid here. I'm on board. I think we're executing that plan as best we can, and I look forward to where our company goes in the future. We've got some really dynamic leaders in multiple markets in the West, Central, and the East. So good times ahead for us, hopefully.
Well, one of the things I like about the Adams, if I may say, the Adams model,
Sure.
or the Adams philosophy is that even though there's pressure there to hit your numbers,
Yeah.
there's also pressure there to achieve excellence.
Correct. Yeah.
It's not like you're just hit the number and slash and burn.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, I see Adams making more and more of a commitment to the newsroom. And
Correct.
making sure, now, so if I may, not to put words in your mouth, but from analyze what you're saying, this isn't brain surgery. This is back to basics.
It really is.
Provide a superior product, focus on good hyper local content, and the readers will come. Correct? I mean,
That's what we've seen, and I really do think that journalism has made the difference. And those news stories, and we have a pretty firm paywall. Our paywall is basically you get one story a month free. The second one you have to register, and after that they're locked. Now we don't lock 100% of our news stories. We only lock the ones that we've generated. And so for our philosophy for the web is, if you can find this story from another source, it's a press release, it's a rewrite, it's rights or whatever, we're probably not going to lock that. But if our journalists generate that content, and we get criticized for that on social media, why are you doing this when I have to pay? And we're getting people to pay. And I think one of the areas that has been successful, we haven't been extremely aggressive with pricing. Our pricing model has been $10 a month. We call it any way you want it. So you can subscribe for $10 a month in print and digital. We just increased that recently to $15, and it'll continue to bump a little bit here and there as we continue to add additional resources and efforts to our overall organization. But it's been, I think one of the main factors here, as you talk about exceptional journalism, is that local focus. And it's school boards. Some of it's not even the sexy stuff. We haven't tried to go out and chase, big forest fires or car accidents or clickbaity stuff. I mean, some of the things, in fact, we wrote a story this weekend that was, I think, 4 different journalists contributed to it about defunding the police and the different perspective. And it was a really long, in-depth story. And the feedback from readers has been really, really positive. And some of them even said it broadened their awareness of the situation and to hear those different perspectives. Of course, some were critical, but it was just a great example of a team that's putting forth a shared effort to provide really exceptional journalism for a community. And that community so far has really responded well.
How's your social media footprint? How is your?
Oh, it's solid. Yeah, it's solid. Never read the comments. We just never read the comments. That's what I say. I'm not very bullish on social media. I think that social media needs to make some changes to how they police their content and what they allow. If we as publishers played the game that they play, we wouldn't be around. We'd be run out of town, right? And that's really frustrating. And I don't like the fact that they're protected more from us than we are from them, and that's pretty disappointing. But I think things are about to change. I think in a good way for local newspapers and community journalism organizations.
How large is your email database? How good are you at?
That's a great question. I just had to check it today for a report. We're at 300,000 actually.
Whoa! Really, for a market that size?
Mm-hmm.
That is very impressive. I assume.
Yeah, now, if you can help me monetize that, I'd really like to know. I mean, we try, and we have ups and downs and wins and losses, but yeah, I think as an industry, we have always had so much data and so much information, and we've done so little with it. And I think that's changing now. And I think our company is really investing in that now. We're looking closely at who our audience is, where they're coming from, how often they're coming. And that technology has just been a little out of reach for our operation just because we've been a family-owned organization. We don't have national partnerships with Google or Yahoo or any of those big players. So it's been harder for us to trying to monetize that audience, and whether that be social or email databases or just overall web traffic. We've seen incredible growth with our website, but we're not sold out. Our sell-through rate is still probably hovering in the 60 to 70% range. So we have that growth opportunity. So we're really in a good position to bring on more, and that's also given us a little flexibility with some creative rating. Because I think that a lot of us have maybe been overly aggressive with kind of our open rates, and then very rarely do we charge those rates. I think it's time to hit the reset button a little bit there and give customers a fair price for a product that gets good results for them. And I think we'll see that continue to grow.
Do you have a separate digital sales force or digital seller?
No, we blend it all together. We do our best with that. We have a digital specialist that kind of is that four-legged call support person. But it's we've tried it all. We've spun off and went the digital local agency thing with a separate staff and tried to rebrand with a different name, and it just didn't ever stick. And so we've kind of folded that back into the organization and try and train our reps up to be really that multi-channel marketing expert that can support you from anything you potentially need, right? We can find a solution for it.
Well, you've got the daily, you've got the weekly, you've got the community papers. Do you have any common verticals that you all share? Jobs, homes, cars, stuff?
No, not yet. And I tell you, that's definitely in the pipeline for us. So especially with our footprint in Idaho, we're just at the beginning parts of a kind of a shared job database with the East Idaho team. But those are definitely in the cards for the future. I think that just makes sense, right?
Right. And then what about working with the other Adams papers as well? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so one of the things we do is our reporter in Boise, Betsy Russell, is one of our rock stars. She shares content with our East Idaho team, and so we've got a pretty good story share agreement, and so we can really get Idaho news across really the entire southern part of Idaho between operations really, really easily. And that's been, I think, one of the reasons why people have enjoyed our news so much, because often I do have, like, for example, we added a section on Friday called Farm and Ranch, which was an existing publication on East Idaho. All we did was move it over to our product and localize it a little bit. And it has all that great agriculture statistics that people love to read, and the feedback on that product has been really good. But that was a long-standing brand in East Idaho that we just kind of ported over to West Idaho and started adding to our product.
Excellent, excellent. So to sum up, give some advice now. You've got some publishers right now taking advantage of the crisis and becoming lean, mean, and adding and growing and are bullish, and you have others that are running for cover. Yeah. To the scared person who is wondering when there's a back end to this, what advice would you give to someone with your obviously successful growing audience? Give us some comfort to the industry, a little advice if you can.
That's a really good question, Mike. My advice would be to continue to invest in journalism, try and avoid cutting your newsroom staffs at all possible. I will say the one thing about COVID that is I think an opportunity is gives us cover to a certain degree to make some of the changes that are probably long overdue. We've fought the change with whether you continue to produce a TV book or what you do with your comics or your stocks page. And we still have, readers that live and die by the weather that's printed in the paper every day. And some of that stuff, frankly, is just not worth doing anymore. It doesn't make any money. It has a really low audience. And so I think this gives us an opportunity to make some of those drastic changes. I know that there's a lot of day cuts taking place, which I'm actually fine with. We dropped Monday in 2016, and we still produce great news on that day. It just isn't in a printed form. And we still get complaints here and there, but for the most part, the market has accepted us as a 6-day-a-week newspaper. I think we as an industry have a job to do, and I'm very, very bullish on our role we play in the communities we serve, not nationally, but locally. It scares me when I hear these papers that are closing doors, and I'm fortunate enough to be involved with the Newspaper Association of Idaho, and we have a big group of weeklies in small rural areas where that is the only source of news in that community. And we print a lot of those jobs here in our press as well, but it's just, that's the thing that we have to support that. I think we need to pull together and try and make sure that we are all doing our part to keep our communities informed, because what we do is critical. And you can speak that, and I'm sure with this audience, they're all agreeing with me. How we get others to understand what we do and the role we play is challenging in today's world. I argue regularly with some of my own family members that think that the media is corrupt or we have an agenda. And I'll tell you, that can be one of the most frustrating and discouraging things that we are hit with every day. but I also can go home feeling confident that the role we do play in our communities is so important that without us, it wouldn't be as good for all. And that's what we hope to continue to do. So I think we can survive. I think we probably need to take a deep breath and make sure we're positioned with the right cost structure moving forward, which is hard to do. We've all been through it. In fact, I think if any industry wants to attract someone to help them reduce expenses, hire a newspaper publisher, because they've looked under every rock and every corner of every building, of every staff member, you name it. It's unfortunately a skill we've all had to develop, and it's been fun to grow for a while. So that's something I can hang my hat on every day.
And with Nick Monaco at the helm, you'll still find a little bit here and a little bit there.
Yes, we will.
Yes, you will. Well, if anyone wants to get hold of you, Matt, and chat with you and learn more about your success, your audience growth, your taking advantage of the whole and filling it, how would they find you, sir?
Email is mdavison@idahopress.com. It's Davison. Often we get an extra D in there, so avoid that. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, or I'm pretty easy to get a hold of.
And of course, the website is Idaho Press, correct?
idahopress.com, yeah.
We thank you for your time. Congratulations on your success. And more importantly, thanks for the positive look.
Hey, we're happy to do our part, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll check back with you and see how things are going out in Idaho. You stay well, my friend.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate the time. You have a great day.